Welcome to Come and See, your podcast for finding truth in a world of chaos. Brought to you by Living Waters Abide Ministries. With host and founder, Richard Case, and co-host and retreat leader, Kathy Rocconi. Join us every weekday at this time to discuss news, spend time in the Word, and receive answers to your personal questions about living life in God's truth. And now your host, Richard Case.
Well, good morning, Kathy.
Good morning.
Here we are in mid-January. This will be the 21st, I believe. Wednesday the 21st will be airing. And we're in our series of forgiveness and reconciliations.
Mm-hmm. This is the day before my middle son's birthday. January 22nd is Caleb's birthday. Yeah.
Great. And are you going to have to celebrate before they take off or what?
We will. We're going to celebrate before they take off a little bit, and then we're actually going out there in February, so we may have another little celebration post, so that'll be fun. That'll be our first time to go visit Oregon, and we actually have 3 trips teed up for that already. This is the mom who is not used to him moving away. So, and actually they want some visitors in the beginning. So we're going to go out for a long weekend in February. And I think we're going to come play in April. And then we're taking the entire family out for the week of 4th of July and planning whitewater rafting and hiking and all kinds of fun adventures for that one. So going to make the most of learning about Oregon.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Are they excited to go?
Oh, they're so excited. They went out recently, when this airs, they will have already moved there. But they went out just recently and did a house hunting trip. And so they were out there for about a week and just loved it. It's a great fit for them. They're very outdoorsy adventure. And so just the environment, it's beautiful, a lot of neat things going on. And I know we're going to have them on as guests at some point to share the whole story. But the way that God has gone ahead of them, can I share one little highlight that I think is so cool? Both Caleb and Olivia, athletes, very much love sports. Their wiring, if you were to rewind and just guess by personality what they would enjoy in a school, you would have thought that they would have both gone to a large school with big sports and just a lot of that going on. Yeah. In God's sweetness, he actually had both of them stay. And they were very surrendered to that, stay at a little school in Massachusetts called Gordon College. So they were literally an hour from us. So neither of them went away. I mean, they stayed at the school, but they weren't more than an hour away. Small school, nothing to speak of really for sports there, that sort of thing. But they are so oriented that way. It's interesting to me. He put such a beautiful community around them for those 4 years, grew their faith in incredible ways, grew their serving even in Netcast and through FCA. And now this next chapter, this adventure that he has for them, he literally is putting them in Eugene at, right by University of Oregon. And yet he's putting them there together with already having this foundation, and they're going to get to enjoy all of the things that he has wired them for, the big sports, all of that sort of thing, but they're going to be enjoying it together rather than a season in college where, could have gone all kinds of directions. And so I think there's just a sweetness in the fact that I think he saw their surrender, we'll go where you tell us to go. And you're saying we go to Gordon. And he's like, but I do know that I wired you this way. And I know that these things would delight your heart. Trust me in the timing. Trust me in the grooming process. I'm growing some things in you that I'm going to use there. And as he opens up what he's doing, again, they'll share more detail. But even with FCA out there, Olivia, who has been a basketball fanatic forever, even played at Gordon, all of that, is going to be the FCA chaplain at University of Oregon for the women's basketball team. For the women's basketball team. I mean, God could not have made that more to fit like a glove for her. And that was the exact need they have going out there. So just amazing to watch what God does. So all of that to say, they are very excited. They have seen already God going ahead and preparing the way. So it is a big distance, and I am going to learn to take long flights to go see him, but we're going to have some fun adventure in Oregon together too.
Yeah. Are they going to try to buy a house, or what are they doing?
They are renting right now, and then ultimately they'll buy, but that's what they're saying right now anyway. So they found a cute little place, and it's amazing. Massachusetts rent is crazy.
Yeah.
And so they're out there and they're doubling their space and cutting the cost of their rent, so the cost of living is much better out there than it is out here. So that is a nice little perk. So they are having fun already looking at where they may want to be as far as buying a house. But I think they're going to take their time, get to know the area, and kind of see where exactly they would want that to be. But for now, they've got a cute little townhouse basically that they're renting.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's cool. And what town are they going to be in?
Eugene. Which is where University of Oregon is.
Yep. And University of Oregon has good sports programs for sure.
Oh, great. Yes. They're already we're all Ducks fans now. Yeah. So they're buying all the gear. We're watching the games every Saturday. We just decided to embrace being a Duck fan.
That's fun. Well, we're talking about, forgiveness, reconciliation. And in this part of the series, we've been talking about getting ready to start to talk to somebody about the issue. Mm-hmm. Which means I've been hurt, I've been harmed, there's a consequence to it. I need to process that with this other party, ideally. I've invited them to, and they've said, okay, I will. So as we get ready for this, see that what God keeps helping us understand is keep thinking of your heart, and are you ready to have this conversation? Mm-hmm. Which means you can talk with honor and respect, with kindness. It's okay to share why they hurt you and what happened and the consequence of that. You have to share that truth. Don't do it with negative energy. Don't do it with hardness. Don't do it with an objective is I have to force them to say they're sorry and they better fix this and they better change. Rather, I'm going to go into it and learn how to at least approach this well. And we keep thinking doing it well means my heart is protected. Mm-hmm. And I will get a resolution. And the only way to do that is with the nature of Christ within me to process that all the way through. So that, when Christ was in the Gospels, when he had all this opposition, he wasn't afraid to express it. Mm-hmm. But he could sit down with honor and respect, which is, if you think about it in a very broad way, the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the Jewish leaders, he always wound up in their houses, or and around them, and if he would have been hard-hearted and attacking mode all the time, they would have just said, why bother even having this conversation? Mm-hmm. So he says, you join me in that same spot. Are you happy with this? No. Are you accepting this? No. But can you talk about it with honor and respect? Mm-hmm. So he said, prepare your heart. Okay. So he says, now they've been willing to say yes. This is a scenario where somebody's willing to talk to you and you've invited them to. We've said your heart is good. You're in that place of forgiveness. I can talk about the truth. He says, now here's how you do it. So go to Ephesians 4. We've read a little bit of this. Ephesians 4, 25 through 32.
Sure. Sorry. Therefore, putting away lying, let each one of you speak the truth with his neighbor, for we are members of one another. Be angry and do not sin. Do not let the sun go down on your wrath, nor give place to the devil. Let him who stole steal no longer, but rather let him labor, working with his hands what is good, that he may have something to give him who has need. Let no corrupt word proceed out of your mouth, but what is good for necessary edification, that it may impart grace to the hearers. And do not grieve the Holy Spirit of God, by whom you were sealed for the day of redemption. Let all bitterness, wrath, anger, clamor, and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice, and be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as God in Christ forgave you.
So he says, first of all, I said, don't lie to each other. The word there and the implication isn't that you're, for sure you're not exaggerating and you're not saying more than it really is. So that's one element of it. But mostly it says that you're avoiding talking about the truth.
Right.
And something. And
it's that lie of omission.
Yeah, that you need to share with them, but you're not speaking up about what really happened and how this impacted you. And I need you, God says, I need you not to lie about that by stuffing it. You need to get it out on the table. And he said, speak the truth. We'll come back to that. He says, don't let any unwholesome words come out of your mouth. Okay, unwholesome words are attack mode. And I'm impugning your character, and I'm saying you do and you should and you always, and they attack you with, you're insensitive and you don't care, and I'm labeling all these things against this person.
Mm-hmm.
He says, no, I need you to talk just about the truth. If you can't do that, go back to get your heart right with me.
Right.
So that
Right.
you can, but don't let it come out. And he said, actually, you will be a big agent of grace
Mm-hmm.
that will impact the hearer of how you act here and how you treat somebody. And you will create an environment where the temperature isn't going to rise up, which actually
Mm-hmm.
will benefit them to learn that that's a better way to go. And you have grace. And so, we were talking about with my mom, where in her situation, it wasn't talking about what she did. It was rather resetting a boundary. But I never let unwholesome talk come out of my mouth.
Mm.
And I just treated her with honor and respect. And the grace that was imparted to her, she actually over time received that and recognized it doesn't really benefit for her to be in the attack mode to me.
Mm-hmm.
And she actually got a little bit freer, at least in our relationship,
Mm-hmm.
from domination and control and manipulation,
Right.
and negative thoughts, where she was not really ever happy with with anybody I was going to marry, but Linda.
Mm-hmm.
But over time, because of the grace of how we treated her, she got softer, and she and Linda actually wound up with a fairly decent relationship.
Right. I'm curious, did she have, like, initially when you started changing your tactic and that, did she escalate because of that?
She did.
Because I think that is a common thing that we see, and then we're like, oh no, this isn't working either. And so
Yeah.
can you talk just a little bit about that? Because I do think there is this curve that comes sometimes in that, and we need to actually be prepared for that and not think what we're doing must not be right. There are some other elements to this. Can you share a little bit on that?
Yeah, because see, underneath it all, there's this, in her case, it was this need to control everything. And she controlled it by fear. And you better do what I want or I'm going to cause you trouble, which she did pretty well. So the first time we did this, when I didn't respond at all that first weekend we were with them, it got worse. And we actually, Linda and I knew that was going to happen. And we said, hey, let's count how many times she tries and how hard she tries.
Mm-hmm.
And she tried really, really hard because I wasn't controllable at that point.
Right.
Now, control for her is I'm actually engaging in the battle
Mm-hmm.
so that she can finally manipulate me. And when I didn't engage and I treated her differently, it throws the system off.
Mm-hmm.
And what she does is get harder, and it gets more,
Right.
It gets worse, and it got worse. The first couple of times it got worse, and all we did is stay with it, and we stayed with it. And then over time, she recognized that, well, this system doesn't work anymore. So,
Mm-hmm.
Why bother? Maybe she could do it differently. What she did over time, but the first, you're right.
Yeah.
It actually got worse, and it could have been,
Mm-hmm.
This is not working. One, and two, it's getting worse. So, Father, what else should I be doing? He says, no, you're doing good. Don't worry.
Right. And I love, even as you're talking about that, I'm picturing it's really hard in that when it starts to escalate, because I've sat in the same thing you're talking about. When it starts to escalate, that is a time when God really teaches you true dependence on him.
Yeah.
Because the only way for you to stay kind-hearted in that and to keep your words gracious and loving and truly mirroring and extending his unconditional love is by staying connected to him. If you for a second step your foot out of the kingdom and you're not connected to him, you're going to respond.
Yeah.
That's the enticement to come out of the kingdom there is so strong, but it's a fantastic training ground for us to learn what is it like to stay connected to the vine, like we say all the time. And in that, he gives you the strength to stay right there and to stay kind-hearted, to stay tender-hearted, to respond with his words, with his love, with the way he sees and knows should be responded, even if the result is not what we expect or desire.
Right. That's right. And he keeps telling us, remember, it's about your heart. So put away, anger, malice, wrath, all of the negative energy, and replace it with kindness, which is my nature, through forgiveness. Keep thinking that way. How am I doing? Do I have this heart of malice? Do I have this heart of wrath? Do I have this desire to hurt somebody back? God says, let me work with your heart. Keep practicing that, and I'll refine you so that he says, what? You got to speak the truth to his neighbor, to the person that I'm dealing with right now. And he said, and the interesting thing, the Greek word here, when we say truth, do I know God's truth yet about how he's going to resolve it? See, no. What's he talking about? Speak the truth. It says, well, speak your truth. As far as you understand it, you lay out in front of somebody that here is what happened. Here's how you hurt me. Here's how you offended me. Here's how it had a consequence for me. And I reacted to that because this is how I felt. This is what I saw. And you got to lay out the truth with honor and respect. And you got to describe the whole situation. And usually what I do is say, let's both see let's walk through how we see this situation. So first of all, the reason I've asked you to come is that there's an offense here. You did something that offended me, and I'd like to share that with you. And I'm going to have you share too, because I know you have a perspective on that too, but I'd like you to listen to what I have to say. And then what I do is I go through the detail of it. I go through the facts of it. I don't say you did, you should, or you were insensitive. I don't even add any of that. Just what happened, just go through the truth of what happened. And, this happened, and it happens on the other direction too. But, a person, was describing the situation he was involved in, and I made a joke about it. And, it was a clever joke. And I thought it was funny.
You and Dan, you guys love to get the laugh.
And there was no reaction, when I said that. But a couple months later, actually, I recognized that his relationship with me had changed. He was distant and didn't want to, really talk much, and wasn't usually, because when you're in a relationship that's healthy,
right?
There's a vibrancy to it. There's there's a positive energy to it. And it was very short and curt, and I really don't want to be around you much, and so I noticed that. And so I said, and so I kind of know, that means when that's happening, probably I did something
right
that he's unhappy about, but he's stuffing it. So I said, is there something between us that, have I done something to offend you? And he, hesitated and said, yeah. What? He said, well, would you be willing to talk about it? Sure. So he lays out the scenario of, I was describing this situation that was hard for me. You made a joke about that. And I felt you didn't care. You weren't sensitive to my heart at all. You weren't walking in any way of how this situation was impacting me. You were cavalier and gave it this funny joke that you thought was funny, but it was actually, it just penetrated my soul even worse. Oh, okay. And what he did was he shared the truth, see?
Right.
Which, by the way, it would have been healthier for him if he had done it 2 months ago.
Right.
But okay. I understand that. So then he would say to me, okay, what do you see about this? What happened on your side of it? And like, well, I was just trying to be funny, wasn't trying to hurt you in any way. I do recognize that this issue is important to you, and did actually, the way I did it and the way I said it, I can see how you would see I didn't really care about you much, or I wasn't sensitive to you at all. I can see that. I didn't intend to.
Right.
And I didn't think about it any after that. It was just a simple joke. I didn't even recognize that I'd hurt you. I'm glad that you shared with me that that's the way it was. And I can tell you that I'm so sorry for how that came through. I didn't mean it in any way. Would you forgive me? And I'll work at down the road, instead of being callous with what I think is funny, I'll make sure that you're okay with it. I don't want to be walking on eggshells around you.
Right.
Because I am going to come up with clever, jokes and stuff, but I'll try to process that with you, when I do it. Would that work with you? Sure. Well, he spoke the truth. I spoke the truth, and something that was sitting there. And this is kind of what we're talking about, is I did something to offend him. Okay. Now I didn't even know I did it.
Right.
Okay. Did it
Which
bother me
happens all the time. Yeah.
did it bother me when I owed it? No.
Right.
Did I think about it at all? No. See,
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't bothered by this at all, but I'm the offender.
Right.
And it wasn't until I noticed that something's changed in our relationship. Now that
Mm-hmm.
started to bother me.
Right.
And I kind of knew, and God, said, hey, because you've offended him. Okay, well then what do you want me to do? Well, go and talk about it. You got to get him to talk about it. Okay. Well, he carried that burden for 2 months. Why? Well, because he never came and spoke the truth.
Right.
Was it okay that he was upset? Yes. What would be the healthier thing to do? Hey, Rich, yesterday, you said something here that really bothered me. I'd like to talk to you about it. We could have got this resolved 2 months ago because it bothered him, but it didn't bother me. And I'm the perpetrator of it.
Right.
That's kind of how it goes, is who's bothered by it? The person that's getting affected by it. And that's why it's our responsibility to say, you know what, this does affect me. This does impact me. I am feeling a certain way. The best thing I could do is, first of all, can I talk to this person with honor and respect, which he did. Would you be willing to talk?
Mm-hmm.
And let's find out. Sometimes the answer is going to be no. We'll talk about that. But if it's yes, then what does that person do? Well, let me share the truth, my truth of how I see this situation. And would you listen to me? Sure. And as I did that, it was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think of that. That was not what I was even thinking what he was going to say at all, but I can see it. Yep. I can see it.
Mm-hmm.
I can appreciate that. And then we worked it out to reconciliation so that the resolution for both of us was reconciliation.
Mm-hmm.
And it was over with, done, off the table, and it didn't affect our relationship going forward.
Right.
If we wouldn't have, he would have gotten more distant.
Mm-hmm.
And he would have gotten more burdened by it because he wasn't willing to speak the truth. And God said, you just got to speak the truth, just the facts. And he didn't do it with a lot of harshness or, attack. It was just, this is what happened. And this is how it happened. This is how it affected me, which I can't argue with. See?
Right. And it's important in that when you're having that conversation to name both the truth of the facts of what happened and the truth, be able to name your feelings.
Yes.
Justified or unjustified, they are your feelings. And so be able to name them and recognize where they're coming from helps to express that in the conversation in a truthful way and to let people see either side of it. I love one of the things you highlighted in this that I think is important is he wasn't willing actually to come for whatever reason. He wasn't willing to bring it to you. But even though it took a couple months for you to recognize, okay, something has changed here, you cared enough about the relationship to enter into that dialogue. Yeah. And I think sometimes we have to be willing to be that person. Even if the person isn't willing to bring something forward, if we recognize a breach in a relationship, being willing to make ourselves vulnerable and actually invite the person, is there something that has gone on that is sitting there because I see you're soul captive in this. And if I played part of that, I don't want to be party to that. Let's bring it out. And then what they choose to do with that, you cannot control. But the fact go ahead.
Because we're agents. I remember God says, pray for my will. I'm an agent of restoration. And if you notice in your relationships that somebody has changed in their view toward you, which you kind of know, you can see the difference. God would say, well, why don't you go and say, hey, have I done something, or is there something going on here that you need to help me understand? Because it seems like our relationship is different. And when you open that door, generally speaking, the person's going to say, oh, well, now that you brought it up, yeah, actually there is. Now, by the way, why? Because I was approaching it with honor and respect to start with.
Right.
I wasn't saying, hey, you treated me now poorly. You've withdrawn. I didn't attack at all. I just said, is there something that I've done that has changed our relationship? And if we're part of the process, because the other party may have been used to stuffing it. Right. And we actually are going to help them get it out on the table.
Right. And that's important to their freedom, right?
Important for their freedom. And you're an agent of God's will. Actually, God says, I want that guy to have freedom. And I needed you to take that step. Yeah. This is how it works, so it does work on both sides. So Heavenly Father, we thank you for your admonition to speak the truth, our truth, get it on the table, speak it well, give the information without a lot of negative energy to it. Don't embellish, but rather just say, here's what happened, and here's how it impacted me and my emotion and my feelings about it, and it hurt me. And be willing to share that to see where the other person is going to go with it toward reconciliation. And may we always live in that place of kindness, respect, and honor as we speak truth, and don't diminish that truth. And we thank you in Christ's name.
Amen. Well, thanks so much for sharing, Rich, and thank you, listeners, for joining us. If you have questions from today's broadcast, send them in to us at questions@abideministries.com, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Yep, see you then.
Thank you for joining us for today's episode of Come and See, your podcast for truth in a world of chaos. Brought to you by Living Waters Abide Ministries. Send us your questions and comments, and tune in tomorrow for more answers to your personal questions about living life in God's truth. Remember, God's will is best and none better. His truth brings peace in this world of chaos.